Greetings, fans of Magic the Gathering, those who like to play Magic the Gathering cards, collect and crack packs, and shuffle up stacks of Magic the Gathering cards. Pleased to bring you another morning Magic the Gathering stocks and talk show here this morning on a Tuesday, January 23rd. Thank you all for joining me, Brody Alfonso. It's Tuesday morning. Do you know where your cup of coffee is? And why was Cinderella so bad at soccer? Because she kept running away from the ball. That's right. What did the horse say after it tripped? I'm fallen and I can't giddy up. Well, giddy up, let's go. It's Tuesday edition of the stream here this morning. If you're tuning in anywhere around the world, I want to thank you all for tuning in once again. And I have just one question to ask you folks here while we're sitting down having a cup of coffee here in the morning. Do you like tracking the prices of Magic cards? Is there enough information out there, or is there just too much information? Let me do it for you. We're doing it here on the morning show, weekdays early before you get up and go. That's right, the working man, for the working man, doing the best that I can to bring you guys some Magic the Gathering discussion. What's going on in the world today? Do you like selling your collection? Do you like having Teferi's protection? Wherever you may be, wherever you got Brody dragging along today, or you got me from the bumper of the car, in your back pocket, next to the coffee pot, hanging out. Maybe you're around the water cooler at work and you're like, hey, guys, check this out. I'm watching this morning Magic the Gathering stream. It doesn't matter where you are. Thank you once again for tuning in. I'm going to start and warm us up here this morning real quickly by looking at some AI generated Magic cards. Now, you know the rules. How's it go? If the card is playable any way whatsoever, we're going to pass it. You're going to hear this sound. That's right, the dinger. And if the card is no good, if it's gibberish, if it's nonsense, it's got one word on it that doesn't make sense, we're going to fail it. You'll hear this sound. The sound of the buzzing, cousin. That's super. And let's get to the show with my friend Murray Cooper, who's turning in, with Cosmic Seeds over from Las Vegas. The men of the North and the men of the South unite on the channel. Let's go. Let's take a look at this card here. Excellent recollection. Gonna need some. Excellent recollection to remember all these card prices and to figure out what's going on in the world today. It's got everything you got. It's Twiddler joining us live on the stream with his excellent recollection. Remembered to tune in this morning and grab himself a cup of coffee. What great recollection you might have. Pleased to see you here, Twiddler. The man who makes dreams come true and makes my background seem just a little bit better every single day I tune in. Thank you very much. What's this here? This sorcery that can't be countered costs you a green and 4? What's that? Are we bringing that back? Are we bringing back WhatsApp? I think we should. The sorcery taps for a colorless. You can pay 3 and tap it to draw a card. You only get to activate them. There are untapped creature cards in your graveyard. Of course they're untapped. Tapping creatures in the graveyard? Not a thing, but it could be a thing. And whenever chaos ensues, counter target spell. Whenever chaos ensues. Let's see. Let's pass it. Why not? Coffee in hand, working on my stream for tonight. I like it. Gonna open my box today. Mucho thanks, Edo. Let's go fair. Let's give this a fair. Non-functional? It's the chaos ensues part. Whenever chaos ensues, counter target spell. I mean, if the chaos is happening around the table, that means good things are happening. Goblin Knight? All right, this is better than Goblin Day, I suppose. This 2/1 human artificer with flying. You may reveal this card from your opening hand. If you do, create a 3/3 green worm token. For 2 white and 2. You get a human artificer with flying with a 2/1. Reveal it from your opening hand. Pre-game effects. This seems fine. Let's pass it. We got articles to read today. I got a really good one I'm excited to get to. It's from my brother from another mother, Harvey McGinnis. So it should be an interesting discussion here this morning. Death Bloom Construct. Crabbing. All right. We got 2/2 crab for 1 green and 1 kicker cost. Kick it. Can you kick it? Kick it to win. You get a kicker for a blue and 1. You may pay an additional 4 and a green as you cast this spell. Got disagreement on a kicker cost here. It can't decide for itself. Then when Death Bloom Construct enters the battlefield, it was kicked. Sacrifice that land. Boo. Boo. Let's get this thing out of here. It's no good. No fun. No how. All right. Death Bloom Construct. It is non-functional. Non-functione. And what do we got? One more here. Skullkeeper. I think we saw this one yesterday. Legendary Human Cleric. Lifelink. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card for each clue you control. All right, draw a card for each clue you control. Whenever Skullkeeper or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, gain control of target artifact, creature, and opponent controls has more cards than another player. Well, this one, I think we all know it's non-functional. We got the 5, a 5-pack of fantastic fans and beautifully perfect, amazing human beings here joining us this morning. I really enjoy it. All right, human beings. What do you call a well-balanced horse? Stable. What do you call an angry carrot? A steamed veggie? And what do you call a pile of cats? A mountain. That's right. Well, like I say in the mornings, do you like tracking the prices of magic cards? Perhaps you do. Perhaps you like buying magic cards. But if you're ever interested in selling your magic cards, I have an article for you. This comes well from the stock desk by way of message. Harvey McGinnis letting us know how to sell your magic cards. So buy listing, that's a thing. Trading, that's a thing. Buying magic cards, but selling, mind you, that's why I'm interested in seeing what's going on in the world of magic with Harvey here this morning. How to sell your magic cards. Let's take a look here. How to sell your magic cards. I want to know what Harvey knows about this subject. Could be a good one. All right, how to sell your magic cards. And diving into the magic card market as an individual seller, it can be quite the daunting process. You're telling me. People have sold out before, right? This is called selling out of Magic the Gathering. Morning, MTG Moxman. Nice to see you here. We're talking about how to sell your magic cards. Finding a way to get the greatest chunk of value out of your cards is straightforward enough, but listing them online seems to be who bites. But in this very rarely the most efficient process of selling them online, it's time and money. After all, so selling magic cards is really about balancing how much time do you want to spend and how much of a return do you want to receive. So this is something that I've talked about with Dual Brain once before. And if you're going through the collection of magic cards and you're trying to figure out what has to stay and what has to go, a good strategy is to get rid of the bottom half, right? Brody likes bottoms. The bigger, the better. The more on the reserve list, the better. But when you're selling magic cards, sometimes a good place to start is to get rid of the bottom half of the collection, the chaff, if you will, and then trade it into something a little higher that pushes it up into the higher end of the collection. So say you've got, let's say you got a mile collection, you got 100 cards. Now, if you're selling out of Magic, you're probably going to sell more. But if you're so there's a couple of different scenarios here. One, you're selling out altogether. You just want out. You want to liquidate. You want to get rid of your cards. You don't want them ending up in a store and just getting rid of all in one shot. But then sometimes players and collectors, what we like to do is we like to trade up our collection to get the value and the fun built back into our collection. So sometimes it's good to take the bottom half of the stuff that you don't play, identify that, trade it into something you will play or you're excited about that rolls back up into the top half of your collection. That way you're always upgrading your collection. But let's talk about what Harvey has to say with regards to selling your Magic cards. Nice to see you, MTG Gaming Bob, Twiddler, the Seeds. Okay. So this article is meant to be an introduction to the ins and outs of the seller's world, primarily from the perspective of the U.S. market. Most of what is in this article should apply abroad, but some of the websites I mentioned won't necessarily be the best choice for other reasons. Reasons to believe. Additionally, this article is going to focus on typical Magic cards, not misprints, alters, oddities, or the like. Those cards are in a world of their own and something for another day, but all right already. What a introduction. And on to the first marketplace individual listings. All right. If you're a Magic the Gathering player who likes to buy cards online, perhaps you could try selling your Magic card collection online this way using individual listings. There's places to do it, and this category is one that will make you the most money per card at the cost of the greatest amount of time. And here's why. Selling individual cards is going to cost you more time, but you're going to get the most money for your cards. Individual listings, leaving the online market on eBay, for example, put you, the seller, at the front of the largest pool of possible buyers, each of which compete for your listing. Rather than putting you up against a single buyer, the competitive nature of online marketplace allows you to net a greater percentage of the card's total value in return. Additionally, by focusing on a single card, there's no bulk discount pressure for your potential buyers. They don't have to pay for less desirable cards. And so they're willing to pay a little bit more for each single item. All right, let's take a look at the example here. Coming at us, we've got Thieves Auction. All right, this is a 7-mana card. It's worth a couple of bucks. And if you're here to talk finance, we've got all the folks in the house that are tuning in here this morning. So let's see how this depends on competition. This is where we get into a listing structure. Traditionally, there are two routes to take for creating a listing. Disclaimer, if you're going to sell on eBay, there are some downfalls. If you're going to make individual card listings, you do have to have some form of an eBay track record. If you're just a new seller and you start yourself an eBay store, you're not going to be able to move stuff that has a higher price tag. You have to work up to that. So chances are, if you don't have a lot of sales or it's your first time making eBay sales, you're going to need some feedback, you need some customer reviews, and that's where you're going to be able to move your price tag up. I think the most you're allowed to sell on eBay without being verified is $1,000. So if you've got any cards that are high end that you're looking to get money for, you might only be able to sell at a lower amount, and then that's going to cut into some of your profit because of the shipping. All right. So looking at how this depends on market competition, this is where we're going to get into listing. And traditionally, there are two routes to take advantage for creating a listing: a flat rate price listing. Think of eBay's Buy It Now feature, where it's just that's the price, or a competitive auction format. Flat pricing listing guarantees a return, but there's a far lower chance that that listing will ever close or be purchased. There's no urgency on behalf of the buyers. If you're going to be selling online, perhaps on eBay, and you want your cards to move first, you're going to have to put them at a little bit lower than what the market is asking. So it depends on your entry price, whether or not you're willing to lose a couple of bucks. If you want your stuff to sell first, of course, you're going to have to price it competitively, and that provides a little bit of competition in the marketplace and making some urgency to the buyers. All right. So auctions, however, only guarantee the floor on a start or a starting price. So if you're going to bid them or put them up for auction, it's going to be a timed auction, but then you can set reserve, I guess it would be called, or the floor price. No guarantees you're going to get more than that, but if it's an expensive card, it's chance you're going to get some offers. That's another option that happens on eBay. People can make a best offer, but you're only going to get a guarantee on your floor or your starting price, but you're going to receive a lot more attention thanks to the competitions that gets inspired. Selling magic cards either way will usually net a good amount of money relative to the market value, but listing via auctions is often a more reliable process. Competition closes deals, and some money is better than none. An adage which is going to become increasingly important as we look for the rest of our categories. Thank you very much for tuning in, Mr. Dual Brain. We're talking about selling your Magic the Gathering card collections. We've got Twiddler, Dual Brain, MTG Moxman, the Cosmic Seeds, all the folks, Murray Cooper, and MTG Gaming Bob. I want to say thanks to MTG Gaming Bob for the little tip of advice. You really should listen to me to tune in over to what's going on Gaming Bob's channel a little more often. The suggestion to buy the One Ring bundle would have been the play at $52, but I think Murray's picked up himself a bundle, and I'm just going to do the same. I got to get myself a copy of the One Ring. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it's strange. I hit the like, and I can only see one like. If you refresh the stream, it will tell you the likes. I've had that problem myself. All right, selling your magic cards. How to do it? Well, there's lots of collections to sell online, and if you're going to sell large collections, online might be the way to do it. A lot of what I mentioned in our first section applies here. And now we need to talk about bulk discounts and efficiency. First, efficiency, right? One click efficiency. Creating a listing for a card takes time. You need to figure out not just what it's worth, but what you compare it to against other listings and see what people are actually paying for the cards on the secondary market. Then there are the things like physical conditions to consider. Now you have to evaluate your cards and grade them and put them at a price point that is appropriate. The point is, managing the sale of a single listing is not a one and done thing. Now imagine doing this for dozens or hundreds of listings. It's an inefficient nightmare. This is where large losses come in. Cosmic broke the thumbs up button. I love it. So if you're going to be making individual card price listings online, you're going to be expected to put in some effort, some time. You'll lose a lot by doing that. Buy list on the low end first. Most people don't count that towards price in bulk lots. So I was just saying before the Dual Brain showed up, one of the strategies that Dual Brain and I had discussed is taking the bottom half of your collection. If you're staying in Magic, we're assuming you're not liquidating. You're not getting out of Magic altogether and selling out. You want to build your collection and gain some fun. Maybe you want to up the reserve list content. So if you get rid of the bottom half of your collection, you know, the lesser valuable cards, or like say your collection has a $1,000 value, then the bulk, the majority of the cards that make up the bottom $500, you want to sell or trade that into something a little higher end, then that'll keep rolling the value of your collection up in price rather than trading down, getting more cards and having the same value. You're going to roll that up into the blue chips, right? Cards with a higher amount of money. Nothing like when I picked up the Gaia's Cradle over the holiday season, I brought in a buy list box. I think I got $400 and something store credit towards a Gaia's Cradle, and it was all there was some higher stuff, and there was some $80 cards, a couple of copies of Counterbalance, but the most of stuff was one, two, three, four, $5 cards, all the way up to some $20 cards, including the Gemstone Cavern. So by the time I walk out of there, I dropped off about 40, 50 cards, and I ended up with one bigger value card, allowing me to hold that as a blue chip over the long term. And I think that's what Dual Brain's talking about. All right, so by collapsing all of the individual card listings into a single listing, the odds of selling all your cards becomes much more profitable. Like a we're talking about a bundle, right? Bulk. So if you're collapsing your individual card listings into a single listing, the odds of selling your cards becomes much more probable binary event. Either you sell everything in the listing when it closes or you don't. And then you'll have to try again and relist it. Regardless, you won't get stuck in the slog of selling things bit by bit. The trade offer here is that you'll be averaging a lower return per card against the market value. And the reason for this is that the bulk discount you'll need to end up applying due to the issues of smaller customer base. Wow. So if people are selling in bulk, you're going to get a little bit less for the money, but you're probably going to have a quicker time moving the sale. You have a foil gemstone caverns minty. Very nice. All right. One of the mistakes Brody made, I could have bought the foils in 2017. I opted for the non-foils. I could have spent the $100, but that's okay. We've got Cosmic Seeds holding onto the foil copy for the collection, so that's good. Hold on to that. What's this card here? Collector's Vault. Love it. Very on flavor here for this article from Harvey McGinnis. For all you Magic the Gathering enthusiasts tuning in the world here this morning. 2 mana for this, tap 2, draw a card, then discard a card, create a treasure token. I don't know if this is relevant to the article, but I believe it's just for flavor because Harvey likes to add a little spice to his articles. All right, let's keep moving on. How to sell your Magic cards. Individual cards, with few exceptions, are mostly bought by players. They buy singles has become the motto for the decade, and people stick to it. Collections, on the other hand, aren't often bought by other card dealers, investors, and collectors. This means that the price per card is much more important aspect of the deal, as opposed to any game function in which the included cards actually carry with them. So, to sell a large lot of cards, odds are you'll have to pay a lower price and a bit more in order to make the potential returns for your customers more attractive. This reflects the nature of the collection sale as much more business oriented transaction. So if you're doing collection selling, you're listing it all at once, a bulk lot, it's more of a business oriented transaction, and the target demographic that you're going to be shooting for is more collectors and people who are looking to buy inventory, but they're going to be looking for a little bit of a discount for buying in bulk. The final category is trade in and buy list. This is by far the one I have taken to over the last couple of years a little more often. Trade ins and buy listings. So, this is what Brody was doing a couple of times last year is buy listing cards. Now, when I do it, I take a box, and it could be a small deck box that you start putting cards into that you're not going to hold on to. I like to let that buy list box marinate. So if you're putting together a buy list order, make sure that you know what's in there for one, and that you can stand parting ways with whatever's in that box. So when I put a buy list box together, in fact, I have one sitting on the deck. I wait at least a year or two with the cards in there because sometimes if you time it wrong, if you start buy listing cards too soon after their release or after they're opened, yeah, there's some hot stuff in there, but it really can come around to bite you in the butt later if synergy is discovered with a card that you didn't know about, or something gets printed in the future, and then all of a sudden something that's sitting in that chaff box was worth a couple of bucks goes up. So you could get more for it. So when I just my own personal opinion, when I am buy listing, I put it together in a buy list box. I price the card so I know what the whole box is worth all in one shot. And then I let it sit so that I'm not deck building a couple of months later. And then I go, man, I really need the copy of Seagate Restoration. And then come to find out that you did actually buy list it shortly after release. So buy listing is one of my favorite ways to go. It's a quick way to get rid of some cards. Sometimes vendors, if you can make it to an event, this is why I like going to events because they offer sometimes like a 30% trade in store on top of what their buy list price is. But let's see what Harvey has to say about trade ins and buy listings. The most efficient, least profitable way to sell Magic cards. It's because the seller buyer relationship described in the individual listings in the online section is flipped on its head. Rather than going out into a market where buyers are competitive for the opportunity to buy your cards at a price that you set, the buy list world is one in which the sale is guaranteed, but the buyer has all the power to set the price, and it's up to you if you want to go for it. If you've decided to take the buy list route, there are two primary options: the online services and in person deals. Now, like I said earlier, I do like the in person deals because then you can sort of see what kind of special they've got, and if they're offering in store credit on addition to a little bit of a top up, for store credit if you're looking to get more cards. But if you're looking for cash in hand, you're probably going to take a little bit of a haircut. The world of in person deals is a bit murkier, especially since things are settled with a handshake and some cash, but it's arguably the more popular of the two, so let's start there. In person buy lists are incredibly regional and are nearly always limited in terms of what cards are actually on the buy list at a given point, primarily due to constraints on cash flow in card shops. However, as your friendly local game store, emphasis on game store, it doesn't mean that they are the fastest option to turn cards into cash. All right, if you've got cards worth something and you don't mind netting around 40% of the market value, ouch! This seems pretty bad. That seems like a big haircut. 40% is what Harvey is saying. The average for most trade ins is 40% of the market value. Then this is actually a pretty good route to take because it's fast and painless. Cracking Games, nice to see you here this morning. The second option, however, is online buy list. Usually nets something closer to the 50% for most cards and has more of an exhaustive buy list option at the cost to being much more laborious process. Selling a collection via buy list often requires indexing the cards, listing their set, condition, etc., and following the strict packaging guidelines, which can be sometimes prohibited for some collections. If you want to put a little bit more effort in and take away just a little bit more return, then online buy lists are a great option, but check around your local scene first. You might get a deal. So there's a thing. So up here in Canada, Face to Face has the buy listing option where you can send your bulk cards in a box and they will fulfill the order for you. They'll price it, they'll index, and they'll tell you what you're going to get. And then at that point, you're either going to say yes or no. They'll take the whole shot, they'll make you a cash offer, or they'll give you store credit. Now, if you're going to stay in Magic, the store credit option always gets you a little bit farther, a little bit more money. But if you're looking to get cash out, then that is where you're going to take the biggest haircut. Now, there's a shipping cost involved, so you want to make sure you're sending enough cards to make the shipping worthwhile. If you do small buy lists at a time, you're probably just going to eat up most of your profits in shipping. What's shipping now? $10, no tracking. So if you want some tracking on there, you're going to pay maybe $20 to ship it across Canada. So that's why I like waiting until events come in person, because usually you can get a really good cash offer. Or what I like to do, if you go to one of the bigger ones that's in Canada, such as Face to Face, try and go for that 30% trade in or store credit. Then you can at least walk away with something new and something nice for the collection. If you go to places like Card Kingdom, they'll do sort of the same thing, but you do have to index all your cards and get an approval before you send them. So that can take a long time to go through and add each and every one of those cards to your selling cart, unless they do the card sorting and listing, like the bulk buy list service for you. Of course, that is going to usually net you a little bit less because you're going to have to pay somebody to sort and price each and every one of those cards. And then, of course, if you don't like the cards, I've even had cards go in on a buy list and they say, we don't want this. It's not worth anything. We'll send it back or give you nothing for it. And then at that point, you're kind of stuck. Okay. So, wrapping up at the end of the day, if you're selling Magic cards, it all comes down to your prioritization of time versus money and how much effort you're willing to put in and how long will be willing to wait to sell your Magic cards. If the answer is a lot for both of these, then the chances are you're in it to make a decent sum. If you'd rather things be over quicker, then buy lists are an excellent place to get started. I hope this has been helpful in organizing your Magic sales. Good luck on joining the fray. Another sweet article here by Harvey. I appreciate Harvey's articles. Another fantastic writer, content creator that we like to read here on the show. Here, Murray's got a comment. Cracking things in the house. I wanted to buy list my Nazgul. It was the only one of the 9 not on the buy list. Okay. Murray Cooper, someday I should go to one of those events. Never have. Yes. And with the recent spikes, we were watching a card like there's Edgar Markov, the Edgar, the Commander Edgar from the Commander decks. That card is worth like $140 US. I think you get at least 120 bucks for it Canadian. Now that would have been a decent return on investment. Probably a several hundred X. What is that? 45 bucks for a Commander deck, 40, 90, 120. Yeah, probably a 300, 3X or 300% increase if you're buying the Edgar. And I love watching the price charts of Magic the Gathering cards. It lets me know what is going on in the world. And if there's something spiking, I get all excited because sometimes I know I have it. I just have to find it. So keeping a well organized collection is also important if you're going to do some buy listing, because if you want to get to a card fast, then it's important that your collection is organized. And everybody has their own organization system. Of course, I do too. And let's get into some movers and shakers here this morning. Benson, thanks for tuning in. Got all the friends. I hope you're moving in your seat and you're shaking with me here this morning. Grab yourself a cup of coffee. It's Tuesday. We're going to be looking at the Pioneer list. All right. Do you like tracking the prices of Magic cards? Well, let me do it for you here this morning. Get your toes tapping, get your coffee warmed up. Let's take a look at what's going on here in the world of Magic the Gathering. I'm looking at this list and something's already popping up on my mind. Let's do it. Here we go. Moving and shaking here this morning. Monday is Modern, but Tuesday is Pioneer. So have no fear. Your brother Brody is here in the morning. Let's see what we got here kicking on the movers and the shakers. Calonian Hydra. Here we go. Pioneer here today. This is some staples in Pioneer. Now, I'm not playing Pioneer, but here's a card that looks familiar, right? Hydra. Hail Hydra. Take this card with heads on it. You get this is a card from M19. It's up 17%. This Hydra says trample. When it enters the battlefield, you get 4/1 counters on it. When Hydra attacks, you double the amount of counters on it. I know Jandon is playing this. A buddy of mine, he's playing heads and Hydras. Mythic Rare from M19. Oh no, M2014. There's a few different copies of it to go around, but this card is spiking in price. We're just talking about buy listing, and we're looking at the movers and the shakers here this morning. We're taking a look to see what's on the Pioneer list, and what two heads are better than one, but more heads on Hydras is better than just two. So we got all the heads here tuning in, including the dual brain, right? Hail Hydra. All right, what do elves learn in school? The alphabet. And where was King David's temple located? Behind his ear. All right, what did one toilet say to the other? You look flushed. But if we're looking at stock charts, this here becomes an interesting read. So we were talking about stock patterns the other day and tracking these charts here. So like Brody likes to put lines on charts. That's what I do here in the morning show. This thing has seen a little bit of a price, an enjoyment in price here. Ever enjoying the price chart of this Hydra. Okay, so this card's been pretty stable. What are we sitting here and around? In and around the 8-10 bucks. It's been moving sideways for some time. Hasn't really seen a lot of action. No siree. Then a dip down around Kaladesh and a pump up around War of the Stark. Definitely two pumps up. And hitting an all-time high around Strixhaven. Hydra is getting a little bit more support, and the more counter synergy that happens, like cards like the Ozlith. Now look at this here. I want to just get to little blow up on this chart part right here. Remember just the other day, I think it was Monday, we were talking about stock patterns and how to identify them. So for any other reason, if you're looking at these charts with me in the morning, I'd like you to just get to know some basic terminology. The cup and handle pattern, that's one that we talked about. This is sort of a bullish indicator where we have a swoop down and it shows like a cup and a handle, one of my favorites here this morning. People gatekeeping money stuff. Hard to find good money making methods. Yeah, anything if you're going to do well at it, you got to put time in, right? Time in the market's better than timing the market. So what do we have here? This, like we talked about it the other day. Yeah, it's the letter U. No, this is like the cup and handle pattern. We talked about it just the other day. I can almost, can you see what's happening right here, folks? This is sort of what we were discussing just the other day when it comes to stock charts and stock chart patterns, right? Sometimes it takes time. You can really look at some of these charts and just sort of your mind goes, what is going on here? And you can wake up in the morning and these charts will go up and they'll go down and they'll do sorts of things. But if you give it enough time, then you can definitely get some interesting information from these charts. If anything else, you can recognize trends, right? So I like to look at the stock trends. And today we've got a new stock term for you folks who are tuning in, especially uh, the folks over the Dual Brain channel. And for you, MTG Moxman, if you're still watching, let's take a look at this. So we spoke about the cup and handle pattern the other week. So let's take a look at this one, a pennant. All right. So when we're looking at these stock charts, we're looking to identify patterns. And this isn't something that you can just wake up one morning and say, "Hey, look, I've got a, I've got an eye on this chart." Moxman hanging in. Okay. So what we like to do here in the morning is take a look at these stock charts, the movers and the shakers, see what's happening. We also like to look at some history on these stock charts and we like to identify some patterns. So we're going to go over some basic terminology for any of the fine finance folks in the channel here this morning. So a pennant. So being able to look at these charts, and I'm not saying just to read them to know where the price is going. You want to be able to look at these and when you come back to them, you want to be able to find outliers, anomalies, things that don't make sense, or things that make perfect sense. And a pennant is a continuation pattern drawn into two trend lines that eventually converge. A key characteristic of pennants is that the trend lines move in two directions. One will be a downtrend line and the other will be an uptrend line. The figure below shows an example of a pennant. All right, and I'll draw it out for you here, folks, this morning. Often the volume will decrease during the formation of the pennant, followed by an increase when the price eventually breaks out. All right, so let's take a look. Let's put some lines on charts right here. This is what is called a pennant. Now, some people have called this a flag. Some of the names or some of these have different names that mean the same thing. I've also heard this called as a flag, but this is why they call it a pennant, sort of like this. So this is a shape. Now these lines aren't drawn. This is implied that you know what to look for, and you can start to sort of see some of these patterns. And when you're looking back over some of these stock charts, when we're talking Magic the Gathering, when the pennant angle angels win the pennant, right? For all you football fans out there, right? But just for your own information, right? So let's go back to our stock chart on Colonia here this morning and let's just take a look and see if we've got anything recognizable. Yes, right around here, right? So this would be close to being what we would call a pennant. And this area right here, this is something that we can just overlay here. Let's get Brody's pen here. Brody wants to put some lines on charts, something like this. All right, so these are some patterns. And then once we start to look at some of to me, this looks like a cup and handle pattern like we discussed the other day. So we've got a little bit of a belly happening, forming here at the bottom of this stock chart here. And then definitely got the handle on the end of the cup here. Let's go to pink. Let's make things a little more pretty. I feel happy. I feel pretty. I feel like jumping for joy. All right, the bullish pattern of this stock chart Now, you gotta keep in mind, take a look at the big picture. Always scroll these charts back, and you can see the entire price history if you're looking at them. This Pioneer card's played in mostly Commander decks. So if a card sees play, that's another good reason for it to see some price action. With the advent of more counter support, there's definitely some case to be made for Hydras going long term. Is this guy a commander? No, he's one in the 99, and there's other places that are playing like Gargos, Voracious Watchers, Zakama, or Zaxara, the Exemplary, Shalai, and Halar, and Sovereign Okinek, Oahu. Ahau, Oahu. Hydra's been getting support too, so the pennant makes sense. So, do you guys jump on the cats and dogs secret layer yesterday? I did not. We should take look at this card here. Now, when I first saw this, it's the return to the ranks, but I was thinking of another card immediately when this showed up. This one's up 10%. I was thinking of illness in the an interesting card from Magic 15. But this is return to the ranks. So this sorcery, so there's a counterpart. I did not jump on the secret layer. I think Murray jumped on a bundle from Lord of the Rings. Well, Return of the Rank says white, and X convoke. So you can tap creatures to cast this spell, and each creature you cast pays for 1. You get to return X target creature cards with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is just a reanimate for little dorks. Return to the ranks. Well, the name seems fitting. Let's take a look at the chart on this. Holy moly, look at now we got some action. I like this. This is interesting. Okay, so just speaking of pennants, right? So let's look at this. Look at the chart here. This thing going all the way back to $1. We're going all the way back to 2015. So very flat, right? This thing hasn't seen anything over $1.50 for some time. So what's moving it? You tell me, folks. Let's take a look here. Now this is what I call like a flag or a pennant. It's a full leg up. There's definitely something going on here with this stock chart here today. When you see something flatline that had zero market interest, and then all of a sudden now we've got this happening. This flag on the play. Flag on the play. So this is what I would also call a flag, or can be referred to as a pennant. To me, what this means, and just by looking at this chart and by using my non-expert opinion of having looked at charts for a long time, this is going to be, if this is an actual interest, if this card actually has interest and synergy for use in some form of play, this is going to be the first leg up, and it's alive, right? This is we got a live one here. What's the price here? Price is $9. So $9 for this sucker here for return to the ranks. Now let's, like I say, look at this chart. What I generally see with the flags, it happens in threes. All right. So here's the good part. If you're holding this card and you get a first bump up in price, it means, hey, I've got 10 copies of this. I'm going to make some money. But you're going to want to wait. In my experience, if this thing is going to keep on its bullish trajectory, there will be a second flag or a second pennant or a second leg up coming, and that will come shortly after. And then this is the area when people will try to get in. Okay. Right around here. Now, not such a great idea to do it. This is good for people who are holding this card, but then when the third leg comes up, if you are holding it, this is what people do in stocks, and then this is usually when it gets dumped right around here. All right, so just be careful with something like this. Buying into spikes, this can actually happen, and then usually you get a price correction slightly shortly thereafter. Okay, so what's playing? Abzan Amalia combo and Pioneer. Amalia. Let's look at the Amalia deck so we can see Pioneer playing it. Abzan Amalia combo. Amalia Benavides Aguirre. Pay 3 life ward. Whenever you gain life, Amalia explores, then destroy all other creatures if its power is exactly 20. 20? Then destroy all other creatures if its power is exactly 20. Maybe it's just for the ward ability. Whenever you then the explorability. I don't think we're caring about the exactly 20 part of this deck. What else we got? The Wild Grow Walker. Oh, this is the Explorer deck. All right, so Reanimate Explorer is seeing a lot of good price action here and some support to this card here for returning to the ranks. Anybody here returning to the ranks of the show? I appreciate you folks for tuning in. We got all the players here. The Krakening's here this morning. So this is with Convoke. Yes, little boys who want to explore. They tap and go sideways, and they convoke this Wildgo Walker. Amalio is auto kill. Thank you. That's the tech that's the tech we needed. See, that's why we need you here, Tommy Siddons. You need you here to pitch in your opinion, because anybody who wants to share their thoughts and opinions can do it here on the morning show with me. You are all welcome here. Wild Ghost Walker and Amalia. So whenever a creature you control explores, put a 1/1 counter on Walker and gain 3 life, and then Amalia ward pay 3 life. Whenever you gain life, she explores. So the Walker explores. And Amalia. All right. So some definite synergy coming into play here, and a return to the ranks and underappreciated, overlooked card from 2015 seeing some price action. It's alive and well this morning. There's number 2 on your movers and the shakers. Abzan Combo's playing it. Do you have copies of it? Perhaps you have a bunch of copies. Check your bulk. Murray, of course, Murray is sitting on a copy of Return to the Ranks. Decent card. I went over to the boys' place last night. Played Commander last night. So Commander last night, I tried a new deck. I'm playing a Stacks deck. Yeah, that's right, land stacks. Rogrin Triome. Okay, $15 for a Triome. Here's the thing. Triomes long term, I have said it and I'll say it again. I am very bullish on Triomes up until about the $20 mark. I think the timing on these things is going to be as such that once they hit the $20 to $25 mark, it's going to be the way of the Shockland. But when this set came out, I was thinking I could do a couple of things. One, I could just buy all the Triomes for $3 or $4, get as many of them as I can. They're great in Commander. They fulfill each land slot. See, as this one here, the Rogrin, gives us the Island Mountain Plains. Or I could wait and try and see if I can get some boxes of Ikoria and then open up some of these Triomes. Now, I didn't get a lot of Ikoria into my hands, but I did get some New Capenna where they have Triomes as well. So that was my strategy. I picked up a couple of boxes on Overstock to try and pick up some Triomes. They got to be reprinting in a Secret Lair coming up, right? The Triomes, I would say it's quite possible. Let's look at the Triome chart. This is like a stable chart. I think we're going to like it. This thing, we pull it back and it looks like it's just been doing great things, right? This is like he who shall not be named because he also did great things. Let's look at this. So in and around Ikoria, this thing was about $10. And then I'm just pleased to see it. Like this will gain some support and has been going east to west right around Zendikar and Kaldheim. This thing ticked up about the $10 mark even in Modern Horizons 2 and Strixhaven topping out at about $20. And now it's just been traveling east to west on a trajectory just below the $20 US mark. I have a feeling that the Triomes are going to be good long term until we see a reprint in and around the $20 mark. I wouldn't pay too much more than $20. I wouldn't go out and start buying play sets of Triomes unless you really had to. Always could see a reprint, but I think the interesting thing about Triomes for me is going to be just like the dual lands. Depending on what deck is in favor and is popular in the meta, especially we're talking about Pioneer here today. Depending on what's popular in the meta, is going to push a different Triome. So what do we have here? This is white, red, blue. So this is the Jeskai Triome. So depending on the meta and which deck is seeing the most support, we're going to see rallying for Triomes to take over that number 1 position. So The Grixis Triumph is probably one of my favorites. The Jeskai, also a good one. But as metas shift, the Triumphs will also compete in price for one another. Let's see, 4-color Omnath playing it. Yes, Omnath, a very good card to be playing Triumphs because he goes and gets you those Triumphs. Azorius Control Niv to Light also being played in Pioneer. So the Niv to Light deck also seeing a lot of push here in the Pioneer format. And 5-color mid-range, of course, Indomitable Creativity, a deck that was played in Modern by Duke Reed, winning some championships. I think we played it in Pioneer, actually, with the World Spine Worm. So mana fixing in all these newer Modern and Pioneer formats, definitely a big part of the game. The Triumphs will do it. Look at all these decks here. These are all mostly 4 and 5-color decks. So that's where the Triumphs go. If you're playing a commander like Kenrith or a 5-color commander, the Triumphs slot in quite nicely. They're also fetchable, so that's a decent quality for the Triumphs. I like the fact that they're fetchable because of the basic land type on them. You can go and get them with just a basic fetch land and fix your mana base up just right. Nice. So making the number 3 spot on the movers and shake list. It'd be interesting to see which is the leading Triumph and for how long. As formats rotates, the Triumphs are probably going to compete as well. Kiora bests the Sea God. All right, well, Brody bests the internet here this morning. That's right. This is a saga. Saga. Saga it to me here, folks, on the stream. Okay, as this saga comes into play, you get an 8/8 blue Kraken creature with hexproof. The second tick up is tap all non-land permanents of target opponent controls. They don't untap, so you get the freeze effect during their next and controller's untap step. And then for 3, you get to gain control of target permanent opponent controls and untap it. So this just takes a thing. 7 mana, though. It's kind of expensive. Where are the decks playing it? And let's look at the chart on this thing and see what it's been doing. Oh, look at this. So just as I spouted off earlier, like we've got a couple of things that we want to discuss here with this chart here. First of all is the pennant shape, right? And if we think back to just the earlier comment about return to the ranks, when we saw a push up in price. So look at the spacing in between here, okay? This is something I didn't mention, but when we're talking about pennants, or we're talking about things moving up in threes, 1, 2, 3. That is the number of licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. But this is the number of pennants it takes to make this stock pop. So you see this distance in between these two pennants? This is a timing indicator. So usually these pennants will repeat if there's going to be and it's nice. See, volatility is another term that makes sense when we're talking stocks. This doesn't seem very volatile. And the reason I say that is because look at the time in between these two pennants and these spikes. This is called a frequency. So if we end up getting a look and we're expecting predictive reasoning is another part of looking at stock charts. If you're trying to see a pattern form and maybe see when it's going to happen again, predictive reasoning is a good way to make all your pattern forming dreams come true. It could be uh, another little while before we see a price tick up in price. Just the shape of this, I would say we expect to see a third pennant and maybe this just cruise along east to west for another little while. But this is just trying to like predict, right? This is scary business. It's definitely something to watch for. Let's keep an eye on this one and see where it goes. But we've got quite a time period in between these two spikes, which tells me this if this card stays stable for quite some time, it might be another, what are we? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Yeah, so this is like a 3-year gap here, right? Like I say, 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 years in between the last spike and this spike. So it might be another 2 years before we see another leg up in price in this. And how high can it go? Well, reprints will depend on that. But this card's $9.60. Hmm. Tom Bombadil. Tom Bombadil. Tom's a bomb, man. Hey, Cardboard Splendor, west to east. Brody going to Vegas October 20 or something. I would love to. Sea God would go good in the water commander deck. I found a box of Commander Masters set boosters for $96. Seemed too good to be true. Missed the whole show. No, you didn't. The show doesn't start until you get here, Cardboard Slender, so don't worry about that. Just an FYI, I got a notification yesterday, but not today. Aww. I'm waiting for them to announce the spring Magic Con, hoping that's in Charlotte. Nice to see you here, Cardboard. Okay, so this octopus generating saga, definitely on the list here this morning. And another card here, Anointed Procession. This is what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about selling your Magic cards. My listing. This card's $50 now. Wow, this is going the way of the doubling season. This is a card that's definitely a commander player's dream. Okay, what kind of dream? We'll leave that up to you to decide. But this still working on Transmute Artifact this month. Nice. Anointed Procession just did get a reprint in Cats and Dogs with new art. Well, thank you, Tommy, for mentioning that. I appreciate it. I didn't jump on the new Secret Lair, but perhaps that is why you mentioned it here this morning. The Secret Lair, Cats and Dogs. Yes, of course, they saw too much value in here. This is a card that was only $3 or $4 when it was printed. You should have known better. Let's talk about evergreen mechanics, right? Let's pull back the chart on this thing and see this thing go. Oh, this is such a beauty, right? What were we here in and around Amon Cat? Now we're talking Pioneer here. It's $2 to $3. It was a $5 bill, but if you can see, this is why some experience. Like if you just started playing in 2017 and Amon Cat was like your first set, and you're like, hey, this is cool. I got this Anointed Procession. It doesn't really go well in my draft deck. I'm not making tokens. But if you can sort of see cards like that have been around for a while, that's why doubling season is such a good card because it gives you a little bit of. Let's bring up the doubling season. It gives you a bit of a sense of what kind of game mechanics players like and enjoy, and this is something that would definitely slot into many of EDH decks. If an effect will create one or more tokens under your control, it's twice that many tokens instead. If an effect would put one or more counters on a permanent you control, but twice that amount of counters on it instead. It was Double Masters even got a reprint of this, but it doesn't seem to hurt the price. It's always worth something, right? What are we, $50, $80? This thing was as high as $100. Oh, ho, ho. So with a card like Doubling Season been out for a long time, it's not hard to see why the Anointed Procession would definitely go into that. Moxman, still not sure why Copy Artifact blew out, but the cheapest price really helped MP copies for $12 was incentive. You want to take a look at the Copy Artifact? Let's do it. Still not sure why Copy Artifact blew out, but the cheaper price really helped moderate play copies for $12 was a good incentive. Doubling season. So an evergreen mechanic like Anointed Procession or something that's going to make tokens or did I miss it? Are you going to Vegas? I have no plans to go to Vegas at this point in time. Millmaster. The copy artifact movement has been crazy too. Anointed Procession, a great card. Let's take a look at the chart on this and keep it going. It's going up and to the right. Now we've got some spikes here. This is kind of hard to find some patterns here, right? Let's see here. What do we got for patterns? Anything we see? Okay, here's another one. It's called a channel. Well, there's this. Some people call this a flag. Some people call it a channel. But let's look at this. This looks like a whole lot of chaos, right? Like a wedge, right? Looks like a whole lot of chaos that. Oh, which way is it going? Well, let's see if we can put some lines on here and make any sense whatsoever. Let's touch some bottom. All right, touching bottom here. Touch some top. Touching top here. Let's just put two lines on here. This thing seems to be traveling in around this channel here, right? Going as up as high as $50. But it would stand to reason that the foil version of this card, if doubling season is a hun is or was $100, the foil version of this could definitely get you $100 at some point in time. Let's look at the foil version. See if we got any other chart goodness here. Yes. Can this go as high as $100, especially in the foil version? Yes, I think it can. Is it an investable card? I don't know. It can always be seen a reprint, but in the secret layer, this is one that you'd have done well to hold on to the pre-release promos. The other one is the green one. Okay, let's take a look at Copy Artifact. I want to have a look here. Is there some moving and some shaking in there? Which version are you guys talking about? The revised copy? Probably the revised copy because it's the one that's closer to $12. $50. Holy moly, what's going on here? Did this thing take a pump? No. Revised copy? Revised edition copy artifact is $50? Holy smokes. What was it before the spike? 28. And it went as high as $150. Well, I think this is indicative of the world we're living in with the market. Revised copies had a massive buyout during the last week. Gotcha. So is there any for sale at the vendor stores? $50, very sold out. Michael Superbacker, nice to have you here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. So revised copies, yeah, the last time this card spiked, it did hit $150, but that's kind of like what we were talking about when we were reading Harvey's article here today on how to sell your Magic cards. So this is kind of where you can look to, this is another thing, how if you're selling your Magic cards, how to buy your Magic cards. You can either go to the eBay route, you can go to the TCG player route, or you can go to the stores route. If there's people that are posting copies of it online for the $150, chances are that's going to be on the eBay. And this is where some price disparity can happen in the market here. For example, like the eBay sellers will be selling copies of a hot card for $150, whereas the stores are still waiting for a restock. They're holding their prices firm at the $50 mark. But of course, you can see here there's none available. So then that's when the open market, the eBay market, and the private markets sort of take over, and they have the ability to move these charts and create spikes, right? Haven't seen anything on this chart here yet there, Moxie. It's sitting around the $50, $42 here on this chart, but that's probably because there isn't a lot of sales data that's feeding into this chart, and it may take a while to move. So right now it's still sitting at $50, but it's sold out in stores. What's eBay talking about? $100, $500 for a graded 9.5, and then there's still copies on eBay for in and around the $30 mark. So if you're early to the game, well, here's a play set for 140. I'm doing okay on Copy Artifact. I've still got plenty of copies in around the $20 mark, so that's good. 28 stores have Copy Artifact on wish list, people looking for copies to buy. And tracking sales gone. All the low copies sold. Was told it was something to do with the One Ring. Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Another card that's really, really good is Phyrexian Metamorph, but the One Ring, that would make sense. A slog day today, so I needed a break here, being here for hours already. Good. Another working man working the hardest he can to fulfill his obligations in the world. This is Brody Alfonso giving the working man something to look forward to in the world of Magic the Gathering, wherever you are, whether you're at work doing your part in this economy to move the world around, whether you're chilling at home, whether you're on your way to work, whether you're next to the coffee pot or the water cooler. I want to thank you folks for tuning in. Some good discussion here this morning. Really enjoy it. The Dual Brain, how you doing? Glint Horn Buccaneer. This is 11% tick up in price. We'll keep an eye on the Copy Artifact there, Moxie. That's a good card to keep our eyes on. It's definitely that and the Wheel of Fortune are two cards that have seen speculation on the reserve list as far as something that's good in revised. over in and above the dual lands. Let's look at the Buccaneer, Minotaur, Pirate. A 2/4 for N20 with haste. If whenever you discard a card, Buccaneer deals a damage to each opponent, and then you pay a red and 1 to discard a card and draw a card. Activate only if Glinthorn Buccaneer is attacking. So Minotaur Pirates, there was a pirate deck that came out. 30 plus shipping and taxes for the eBay sales. Well, we're going to keep an eye on that on the move, okay? Blame it on Tony Scapone deck design. It's his one rings that are breaking formats and pushing these older, underused cards. Well, I find a card like Mirror Maid, or what's the other one? It's the 2 mana, and it's really good against Bowmasters. It's Phantasmal Image. So here's something that's about the same mana cost, and this is like what we were talking about. When a new set comes out and something is the bomb baby, like the One Ring or perhaps the Orcish Bowmasters, then cards that do stuff like copy it are really, really desirable. And here's another card that goes well. If you don't have an Orcish Bowmasters, you can always get this Phantasmal Image, right? $7.55. Why would you pay $75 or $80 for the One Ring when you can just let your opponents play the One Ring and copy it with a card like Copy Artifact? The same goes for Bowmasters. Bowmaster's kicking up at about $50 and the mana cost is 2, but this illusion nerfs it in the butt. It costs 1 blue and 1, and you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield. So if you target Orcish Bowmasters, it comes in and kills your opponent's other Bowmasters. It's a 1/1, and it's still got this ability that says if it's a target of a spell or ability, then you have to sacrifice it. But so what? Bowmasters is a 1/1, so it's dying to anything that pings it, and it's dying to another Bowmasters anyways. But if you don't want to pay the $50 for a Bowmasters of yourself, and you're playing in Commander, you can get this Phantasmal Image as a great utility card, and it's something similar to the interaction we're talking about with the One Ring and the Copy Artifact. 2 mana to play your One Ring, or you could play 4 mana for the 2 mana to copy your opponent's One Ring, or 4 mana to play your own. The question is, here's the tech question. Do you get protection from everything when Copy Artifact comes into play? Does it come into play as a copy? Do you get the cast trigger with protection from everything? If you do, that makes it even better, right? So let's take a look at the stock chart on this Buccaneer here. Pirates beware. All right, this thing's taking a tick up in price. Look at this. Look at this steep slope, hey? This looks like something you'd pipeline into. Steep slope. A card that's seen some price action on and around Kallenheim for $2.80 and going all the way up to $3.80. So doubling in price. Let's take a look here. Let's put some lines on charts here, because that's all I want to do is put lines on charts with you in the morning show. Talk about the new ley line from Karlov Manor. I talked about it at the CEDH group last night, and a lot of people said this is like a 4 mana do nothing. It doesn't do anything, right? But it's basically Painter's Servant for lands and creatures. Who's playing this? The Glenthorn Buccaneer? I don't know. Are we going to see some tech around it that makes it any good? I mean, Coalition Victory is a card that's already banned in Commander and you can't play. So do nothing in opening hand. It's free. Yeah, it's free, but it takes up a card. Best real magic tip. The best remover for a Bowmasters is another Bowmasters. True. Or a Phantasmal Image copying Bowmaster. Yes. So the Pirates, where are these Pirates being played? Commander, we send Alexander over. The Glinthorn Buccaneer, Profession, Torment and Hailfire. Here's a neat card. Actually, this one's on the movers and the shakers list. Very cool. I think I bought this card in foil. This is another card from Hour of Devastation. 2 black and X. Repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life on that player unless that player sacks a non-land permanent or discards a card. It fixes your 5-color mana brews, Jodas, Liver Queen, or Reaper. Yes, it does. And it's free. Yes, it is. It should be legendary if you ask me. Why is it not legendary? I don't know. It's amazing. I uploaded a Stronghold Pack video and lost subscriber. Oh no. So where are we playing this card? And let's take a look at this chart. It's just sort of swinging up slowly. Torment and Hellfire? In and around, what are we, $8-10? 17. $18. It's a $20 card from Our Devastation. Commander decks playing it. What are you doing? You got to pay infinite mana into this. You got to pay this like a lot. Repeat the process. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices an online permanent or discards a card. Yes, you gonna need infinite mana, and this is basically win the game or lose all your permanents. So if you can pile infinite mana into this thing and just pay, then you can make everybody sack everything. You just basically win on the spot. It is a win condition for 2 black and X. Because I don't think anybody's going to care about paying the life when they have 40. But if you can ramp into something that's making infinite mana and cast this, it's GG's. So not necessarily finding its way on the list here for Pioneer, but it's definitely in the sights for commanders or commander deck. They didn't like the polls. Torment of Hellfire, Zagoth Triumph. Here's another Triumph for $16. We saw the Jeskai Triumph rocking and kicking up. And then Nixos Shrine to Nyx. This is another card that I gotta get my hands on. It's really expensive though. It's $30. This one's all about devotion, right? Okay, so add 1 mana to your mana pool, choose a color. Add mana equal to that devotion to your mana pool. So this is really good for a devotion deck. Also, probably not seeing too much Pioneer play. Probably going to see mostly Commander play. But look at this chart here. We got some bumps and humps along the way here. This good thing actually trending along pretty nicely here. We got, some of these bottom patterns here. I don't want to say so much of a cup and handle because this is going east and west, but it does take in a tip up in price again. This looks like a bullish chart, if you ask me. The Shrine of Nyx from Theros, what's the foil version at? $53. So as long as devotion is a thing in any of the colors, mono black, could be multiple combos in the Crewfix decks, these 5-color decks, most of these are just single color decks, although they had a good quality, tend to trade very well. Nykthos is going to see price support. This card going all the way back to Theros, so it's quite, or Nykthos. Yeah, from the Theros block. This card's 10 years old. Can you believe that? I'm feeling old this morning. All right, so this card's 10 years old and it's seen some price action finally in the last 4 years, but that's probably with the and the advent of printing. I mean, here's a card that goes with the new ley line, right? All I can chime in is you keep saying east to west, it's the other way. It's the other way? You keep saying east to east. Okay, west to east? East does that trigger you? I'm sorry. But I just like the way it sounds better. But that's okay, west to east, east to west, left and right. Uh, gotta love you. Thanks there, Cardboard Splendor. So an interesting card that's 10 years old from the Theros block. It seems pretty good. With a new ley line, this could definitely get you some more mana fixing. But from what I can see here, the devotion decks are usually 1 or maybe 2 colors. And then the Chromatic Orrery. This is another card that's $27 from M21. And where did we see it last? I thought we saw it in another reprint set, Core 21 and the Lost Cavern of Ixtal on Commander. This thing is all the way up to $65. Is it banned in Commander? Oh, no, it's not. So this is 7 mana artifact. It fixes your mana. This is sort of what we were talking about with the new Triumph. You can spend mana as over any color. This taps for 5, and you can draw a card for each color among permanents you control. So in like a multicolor game, this thing is, or in a multicolor brew, this thing is definitely going to see some love. As well as the Nykthos. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the new Triumph that has all the mana pips on it, or the new ley line rather, that has all the mana pips on it, is probably a good reason for this Nykthos and the Orrery appearing on the chart here today on your top 10. So let's look at one more chance to look at the Orrery here before we scroll back this chart. Going west to east very nicely, easily. Where are we at here? Draw a line here. $20. Well, that's it. Stay classy, folks who are tuning in. If you're tuning in from around the world, I want to thank you folks for joining me here this morning. It's been the morning stock and talk show where we discuss Magic the Gathering and cards, cardboard accessories, cards that go up, cards that go down, trying to make sense of this crazy mixed up world. If you like buying and selling Magic cards online, you like tracking the prices of Magic cards, let me do it for you in the morning when we're taking a look at the markets each and every day live on the morning show. And to the fantastic viewers out there, we've got a really good stream today. I really appreciate all you folks tuning in. Cardboard Splendor, Benson, the Millmaster, Dual Brain, Ed is in the house. My friend Murray Cooper, Cosmic Seeds, MTG Gaming Bob, the Moxman, MTG Dual Brain, all you folks making it happen in the Crackening Games. Tommy Siddons is in the house here today too. Cops are at the door. It could be the Pinkertons coming to shut us down. All right, well, let's let Ron Burgundy take us out on a little bit of jazz flute here this morning. I know he would be so proud coming you from the morning stock desk. That guy will read just about anything off the teleprompter if you put it in front of him. All right, what did one wall say to the other? I'll meet you in the corner. I'll meet you here tomorrow on this morning show, the stream. Thanks for tuning in once again. And if you're organizing a space party, don't forget to